A big development coming in the Kancha Gachibowli tree felling case, where IAS officer Smita Sabharwal has now defended, saying that she is fully cooperating with the Gachibowli police authorities and given the full detailed statement as a law-abiding citizen. Remember, the IAS officer was booked earlier for posting AI-generated images, and now she has asked a question that about 2,000 individuals have reshared the same or similar set of images. However, none of them have been booked. She also raised the question of selective targeting. Let's go across to my colleague Uma Sudhir, who's joining us on the phone line. Uma, help us understand the defense that has been adopted by the IAS officer who was earlier booked for sharing the AI-generated images.
So, Smita Sabharwal was sent a notice under Section 179 of the BNS for having shared an image on the 31st of March that had a Ghibli-generated image, and that spoke about Save HCU and Save Biodiversity, where the hashtags that were used on it. It was from a handle called Hi Hyderabad. And she had only retweeted it with no comment at all, and subsequently the notice was served to her. And what could have thought would probably seem defiant to the ministers. And I did speak to one of the senior ministers, and he said that, yes, according to the All India Service Conduct Rules, an IAS officer is an extension of the government and therefore expected to, not in public at least, put out, any opinion that is contrary or contrarian to what the government stand has been on the issue, and therefore they see it as an act of defiance. What Smita Sabharwal had also done was to retweet a couple of other handles. One of them happens to be one of the two journalists who was arrested by the Congress government in the context of, some posts that she had made that were derogatory of the chief minister. So retweeting those may be seen as a further act of defiance by the government. But no, the civil servant, the IAS officer, has simply said that she has given her statement, and she has also sought to know whether the 2,000 others had been also issued notices similarly, and then questions saying that there's a question of equality before law and the principles of natural justice suggest that everyone should be treated equal before law, and therefore am I being selectively targeted is a question that she has asked through her social media post. Two things I must point out. One, of course, is the All India Service Conduct Rules is one thing. The second part of it, yes, Smita Sabharwal was part of the Chief Minister's office in the BRS regime and has been seen as someone who was part of the decision-making for several important projects, and therefore her name has come up during such investigations as well. But Smita Sabharwal, known to be someone very outspoken about her views, and only in the recent past she was in a social media kind of a war of words between different people, because she had made a comment suggesting that differently abled people may not be suitable or may not be given preferential treatment to be made into officers, because that would require them to be much more agile and active, which a physically challenged person may not be able to fulfill the same duties.
Right, Uma. Also, just for the benefit of viewers, really, take us through the latest into the probe. And the IAS officer really has mentioned the point of selective targeting, which I definitely think is sort of a valid argument there. So what's really going to happen in terms of the legal point of view? Uma, help us understand that.
So this is coming at a time when obviously the Telangana government is on the defensive over the issue of proposing to convert the Kancha Gachibowli 400 acres into an IT park, and that is something that the government said they are developing in order to ensure that there are more jobs and giving more space to the development of the city itself. But of course, the Supreme Court has been very, very scathing in its remarks on the state government, saying they were in a compelling hurry, and it is very obvious that the state government is on the defensive. And Smita Sabharwal is a very senior officer, principal secretary in the Department of Tourism, and she posting something like that on social media is something that is being debated and questioned as well. Two aspects how this can play out is that if this is disciplinary action under the All India Service Conduct Rules, one would expect that the Chief Secretary perhaps would have asked her the questions, or there'll be an internal note asking for the question. But for her to be, served a notice and then asked to come and explain why she had reshared such a post and whether she had extra information because of which she decided to do that, is something that is being seen as, yes, selective targeting, because very obviously the 2,000 others have not been booked. But I must point out that the state government did book multiple cases against several people, not just social media activists or students of HU or BRS political party, even Union Minister Kishan Reddy for having shared AI-generated images. And the argument of the party has been that the kind of AI-generated images that were being used had led to misinformation, which had misled not just the Apex Code, they also said it had misled the Prime Minister, because of which he had made the statement that he did in Haryana about the clearing of forests in Telangana. Therefore, this has become a point of big interest to see what happens next in this particular case, because it's a clash between the government and a serving IAS officer.
Right, Rama. Thank you so much for taking us through the details coming in as the IAS officer looks to sort of defend her stance after being booked for sharing the AI-generated images.